Doctors, are you tapping into the unrealized potential in your practice? Hi, everybody. Welcome to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast, brought to you by CATS Consultants and Chiro Health USA. I am Dr. Michael Perusich, your host, joined with my co-host, Dr. Troy Fox. Troy, you and I were talking about this, the fact that there's so much potential in our practices, and far too often we're just not tapping into it like we should be or could be.
Yeah, I think 100%. And the thing is, if you say that's not me, I'm doing a great job with my patients. Bring a new piece of equipment in and start talking to your patients about it. The reason we're having this discussion today is because I'm even suspect at times. I've done everything that I can for my patient. I bring a new piece of equipment in and I'm hearing about shoulders and knees that I haven't heard about in a while. And all of a sudden it's, there are things that these patients really had needs for that I wasn't addressing. And now I'm looking at it. So what unrealized or untapped potential do you have in your practice? Have you just been saying, hey, Sally Sue, lay down on the table, boom, boom, how things been doing? How's the family? How are the kids? Hey, we'll see you next month. We do all get in that kind of routine sometimes, especially with our maintenance practices, and we're missing golden opportunities because some of our patients, you've been treating them like this for years. Things have changed for them. And every once in a while, you get a little warning shot over the bow because somebody will say, oh, hey, so-and-so's not here today with me. She's off getting an MRI of her back or her shoulder or knee or whatever. And you're thinking, what? I thought I was treating her all this time. You were, but...
Yeah, but you were treating her low back in her mind and your mind.
Yeah, they needed something else.
And we get stuck on that stuff.
We do.
Yeah. And so we've got to always be bringing that present time consciousness to the forefront of every potential opportunity a patient could present with. Now, it doesn't mean we ask them questions about head to toe every time they come in.
No.
But if we're so close-minded that we're treating, what'd you call her? Sally Sue?
Sally Sue.
If we've been treating Sally Sue's low back condition for the last 5 years, if we're so locked into that, we're going to miss the fact that she started having shoulder pain a couple of months ago. And now she's getting an MRI. She's talking to an orthopedist. She's going to physical therapy. And we missed a prime opportunity because we didn't interject chiropractic into Sally Sue's thought process that it could be an option for her.
At a bare minimum, you should be doing reevaluations once a year. Where you have patients fill out paperwork again. They hate filling out paperwork. I get it. But if you actually engage them when they do fill out the paperwork, they're thankful that they filled it out and they're glad that you had a conversation with them. Once a year is a bare minimum. It's really not a bad idea, especially with your monthly maintenance patients, that you put a notice even at the front of your office that says, hey, if you've had a change in condition or anything new you'd like to talk to the doctor about, please let us know. And so that way it sparks their attention every time they walk through the door. Because quite frankly, I already know docs, we get in the grind and we get our heads down and we got people in the room. You're not going to ask everybody, hey, so how are your shoulders doing? Have you had anything new? I saw you walk in, and if you see them limping a little bit, you might ask them that. But quite frankly, we're probably not going to do anything that we didn't notice. And sometimes even if we notice it and we're busy, we ignore it.
Yep.
So patient won't ignore a condition if they feel like, oh, doctor's wanting to know if there's anything else I can do. So those are a couple of caveats. That yearly exam to make sure that you're at least getting a yearly. I like the every 6 visit exam when we're in active care, but I definitely like a yearly exam for sure with those maintenance patients.
Yep.
And asking them the question. Now, obviously, if I'm not doing a perfect job at it, and you're not doing a perfect job at it, we can probably both do better at those two things. That's an easy one.
That's an easy one.
Yeah.
We got to hear a word from our sponsors. So we're going to take a quick break here, but when we come back, I want to talk about some other avenues that kind of push us into that blinders on mentality and we miss those opportunities. So quick word from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
In today's economy, every dollar counts. Families are facing tough choices, having to reconsider what was once essential to them. But when it comes to healthcare, no one should have to compromise on their well-being because of financial constraints. That's where Chiro Health USA steps in, the solution for your practice. We understand the financial pressures families are under, whether they're insured, on Medicare, or paying out of pocket for treatment. By offering discounts on care, you can ensure that your patients can still afford the treatment they need. At Health USA, we're committed to making sure no family has to sacrifice their health due to financial hardship. We'll work with you to create a game plan that keeps your waiting room full and your practice thriving. And here's the best part. Offering affordable care not only benefits your patients, but also positively impacts your bottom line. So why wait? Join Power Health USA today and join the ranks of the most successful practices. Because when you put your patients first, everyone wins.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast. We're talking about the hidden potential in your practice and how it's right there under our nose. And sometimes we just completely miss it. Another one I thought of is we get this idea that we're going to raise our fees, which we should raise our fees periodically. We just have to make sure we have a good fee strategy, but we raise our fees. Okay. And then we notice that our collections are flat the next couple of months, or they're even down a little bit. Because, okay, we raised our fees, but in the back of our mind, there's something that's holding us back from utilizing that increased fee strategy. And we stop recommending some services for patients because we want to keep the cost down for them.
You know what they call that?
Yep.
PC, politically correct. No,
Property complex.
I was almost right there with that. We do. And I tell you what, it's human nature. In a lot of cases, we do start minimizing the treatments that we give patients because, oh, I've already charged them enough. There's so much human nature in this. And I don't know how to get us as doctors out of that. If we worked for an establishment where we didn't care, we would not give those kind of breaks to people. But instead, what happens is we get personally involved and we worry about their financial state, even though they're not worried about it. They just got their nails done. They drove up in a Lincoln, whatever that big Navigator, and they've got the newest cell phone, and you think that saving them $25 is going to be a huge benefit and that they're going to love you forever for saving that money. No, that's
they walk in with their $12 Starbucks.
They could give a darn less about that. What they want is good service and they want good outcomes, right?
Yep.
That's what they're looking for, good service and outcomes. They're not really concerned at that point that you raised your prices. You're the one that's concerned and all of a sudden poverty complexed it. So yeah, we see it all the time. You and I are just blown away sometimes by looking at somebody's numbers falling flat on their face. I'm going to raise my fees. Yes. And down they go.
And down they go. And down they go. So doctors, I'm going to tell you a little remedy to get away from poverty complex and try to overcome some of this. As the doctor, you should be focused on patient outcomes and patient experience. Let your staff focus on the finances. I can tell you, anytime a patient asks me what something cost in my clinic, my standard answer, even if I did know, my standard answer was, I don't know, ask the staff. I don't know, ask them at the front desk. I don't know, ask Marissa. Because I was not going to get into a conversation about money with the patient. Because the minute you do, you lock yourself in so hard to poverty complex. And that's one of those things that puts the blinders on to opportunities. So we have to remember we are a for-profit business. So run it like a for-profit business.
Yeah. Now I'll sometimes allude, somebody will say like a nutritional product, I'll recommend it. And somebody will say, because I really don't remember numbers very well, so I don't remember the cost on stuff, which is a benefit for me. But a patient will go, how much does that cost for such and such vitamin? I go, I don't know, but I know it's one of our lower priced vitamins.
Perfect.
And you get, and there's, but here's what's funny. I don't remember what it costs, but I remember there's 240 count in it. And oh no. So I'm like, there's 240 in there and you're only taking 2 a day. You can do the math on that. It's pretty cost effective. But I still didn't tell them what the cost is. I have no idea. I'll tell them that much and then send them up front.
Yeah. Stay out of that conversation.
Yeah, it's 100%. So when we're realizing value with patients, there's opportunities when we hear them, sometimes just to say, you know what? You're really tight today. I think a therapy would probably help that adjustment stay mobile a little bit longer. Or you find a completely new condition you need to put them on a treatment schedule for. And it's a really great time to introduce the fact that I'm going to treat you X number of times, usually like 6 times. we're going to reevaluate at that point. I would recommend that we're probably going to see you 12 times, but I'm going to reevaluate you at 6. So we preempt this. And really the whole goal is the same place that we've been at with you, Sally Sue, this whole time, is that we want to get you well and we want to keep you well. We've got a new condition here we need to work with, or one that's flared on us. So we're going to actively treat this again. And our whole goal is to get back to a point where we're just maintenancing you. So now I've basically taken the conversation from 0 to here's where we're going to go with this. And then I bring in those other services. I had a patient literally right before we did this podcast that came in. She got adjusted the first time she came in an exam. She did not get any therapy. Today, I put therapy on her. She goes, "Oh, I didn't know I was going to get this." She was all thrilled about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why didn't I do that last time? I don't know what my mindset was when I did an evaluation on her last time. I can't figure out what I was thinking in my head. It was baffling me too. Why didn't I recommend therapy last time? Was I in a hurry? What was going on up here? And I couldn't figure it out. But today I looked at her, and when I was palpating, I'm like, wow, she needs some therapy on top of the adjustment. So it was obvious to me today. Sometimes you see those things, sometimes you don't. So don't kick yourself if you haven't. Just realize you have a bunch of potential in your practice that you haven't utilized.
You just made me think of our mastermind that we've been studying recently in our mastermind group. And that's about being prepared. And when we go in with a patient, whether it's into an adjustment or into an exam or into a report of findings, how prepared are we? Have we thought all the way through the case? Are we making a full set of recommendations to the patient? Or are we minimizing things? Are we minimizing things because of poverty complex? Are we minimizing things because we haven't thoroughly thought through what's best for this patient?
Yeah.
And so we've got to make sure that we're prepared. And that goes back to that mental preparedness when you're working with a patient. Are we staying present time conscious with that patient? So we're uncovering all those opportunities. What do we always say the litmus test is in CATS Consultants? If it's good for the patient and good for the practice, then we do it. If it's good for the practice and not for the patient, then we don't do it. If it's good for the patient and not the practice, we think about it. If it's good for the patient and good for the practice, if the patient can benefit from the muscle stem and the practice benefits for that extra $20, it's a win. And isn't that what we're trying to create? Yes, I'll answer that for everybody. Those kind of things are important. And if we're blocking ourselves from that, then we're missing part of that potential in our practice.
100% agree with you on that. That it's, as we refer back to the words, who's the guy that sings the song Ice Baby? I just happen to have Vanilla Ice. That would be his name, Rob somebody, right? So in the famous words, Vanilla Ice, stop, collaborate, and listen. And I know some people just turned off the podcast.
I was about ready to.
It's so true. I listened to today, we were talking in our mastermind group, and we were talking about a couple key concepts. And what I got out of that was, listen, you've got to almost take a pause. And I always like to say, when you go in with a new patient or a react, you change gears from adjusting into more of a diagnostic phase again. And with that, what's important to know? Who's my patient? Who's in front of me right now?
Yep.
What do I know about them at this point? And what do I know about their condition before I walk in? So I can say, I know this and this about your condition. Tell me in your own words what it feels like on a day-to-day basis. Because sometimes you guys know as well as I do, you get information, but you look at it and you go, they have pain from head to toe.
Yeah.
And it's sharp, it's dull, it's achy. It's 21 or 25 to 49% of the time and 50 to 75% of the time. And it's every day and it's part of the day. And so you're like, okay, what in the world? Okay. So let's break this down. And we go in, and guess what I do? I go in and I listen to my patient at that point. So the collaboration and listening portion is me coming in and saying, hey, I've read what you wrote down. I appreciate you putting all this together. Now let's try to make sense of this. Because sometimes you do get the word salad.
Yeah.
And I got one this morning. And unfortunately, I was ready to go to ask the patient questions, and they have pneumonia. And so they weren't in. So I didn't get to go through with it. But those are things you have happen. And sometimes a patient is so succinct, and I thank them. Oh my gosh. thank you for the great detail that you gave me about your
Yeah.
neck pain. You right-sided, radiated into your scapula. They're blown away because they say, I have this all the time, most doctors don't read these things. Patients get burned out on filling them out because they don't think you read them anyway. So
Right.
when you do, you blow their mind. So if you're not reading those things and you can't recite back to the patient what's going on with them, I would highly encourage you to do that before you go in with a patient. Huge. And it also reminds you of everything that's going on with the patient to allow you to make a proper diagnosis and to do what we were just talking about. You can tap that unrealized potential. So now all of a sudden, it's not just the spine I'm worried about. I'm also worried about your right shoulder. And we're going to address that today as well. And we're not going to let that slip through the cracks because we're spine doctors, right? I see that a lot where we narrow our focus in and we forget about extremity adjusting and therapies. And some of you don't, some of you do a great job. But if you're not getting to that point of where you're addressing with issues, make sure that you're addressing everything the patient put in front of you. You want to talk about patient satisfaction. And I just read this, in Chiropractic Economics or one of these magazines is probably propping my laptop up right now, or my tablet's probably better not move it. But I was reading, I think it was Dynamic Chiropractic maybe, that was talking about patient satisfaction for spinal problems specifically. They were talking about medical doctors, and they actually have a dissatisfaction rate, which chiropractors didn't have. And it was like 60 some percent for medical doctors and like 90% for chiropractors. I'm throwing numbers out there, but it was amazing to me to see what our satisfaction rating is with patients. So we're doing a good job, but we could do a great job.
Yeah, I'm going to add one thing to that. When we become so focused on one part of the patient's condition, when we become so focused on, if they come in and they're talking about upper back pain, for example, and we just focus on that, and we don't realize that there's other things attached to it that may be affected, like shoulders and elbows and so on and so forth, necks. When we do that, what do you think happens to the patient's mentality? They begin to mirror us as the doctor, and now they are only focused on their upper back, on their thoracic spine, because now we just led them to think that's all we do. He's not checking my shoulder because he's a chiropractor, so he only focuses on the spine. And now we're losing all kinds of opportunities that we could be working with patients. Again, expanding that potential in your practice. We're losing those opportunities. So when we come back, we got to take a little break. When we come back, I want to explore that little piece just a little bit more. All right. We're talking about the hidden, unrealized potential in your practice. Listen to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast. We'll be right back.
Pat's Chiropractic Consultants, your partner in chiropractic success. We are dedicated with one-on-one guidance to bring you all your practice management needs. Let's supercharge your practice. Give us a call today.
Welcome back to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast. We are talking about the unrealized potential in your practice. And Troy, we've uncovered some amazing things, but one of the things that always amazes me in my practice is, amazed me in my practice, was the fact that patients oftentimes would think that we only treated the condition that they came in with. And maybe you're treating them for 6 months and they came in with low back pain, they start having elbow pain, and they don't talk to us about it because they think we're just low back doctors or just neck doctors, or we just treat headaches, whatever it is they first came in with. And that's boo on us, because that means we're not fully communicating the value of chiropractic and the things that we can do to our patients. Now, we can't vomit every condition all over our patients every time they walk in. We can't tell them about every single thing that we do, but we should have enough communication happening in our office, verbal and nonverbal, from doctors, from staff, that's allowing the patient to gain that understanding that we should be the first place they come to with any condition.
I always tell people everything musculoskeletal from head to toe. And if I don't think it's something that I treat or want to treat or feel comfortable treating, I will refer you on. So I'm a great triage point when it comes to musculoskeletal because that's my specialty. And when I look at that, now you can say, okay, but you're a nervous system doctor. Yes, I do talk about that with patients. So don't get me wrong. But when I'm talking about musculoskeletal discomfort, I want patients to come to me with whatever it is. I don't care if it's your foot, your shoulder, your neck. You holler at me first. I'll let you know. I'm going to save you a bunch of money because I'm going to tell you where to go, what to do if I'm not the answer to it. And if I am the answer, I'm going to be far cheaper than you coming full circle back to me.
Yeah,
It's a
absolutely.
really simple conversation.
It is a simple conversation. And here's the thing, docs out there. If you've been in practice 3 years or longer, you're probably sitting on an unrealized gold mine.
Yeah.
You've got several hundred, probably a couple thousand patients in your database, maybe more if you've been in practice longer. You may have tens of thousands of people in your database. What are you doing to tap into that potential? Because it's huge. Are you doing reactivations? Are you doing those annual exams like Dr. Troy talked about? Are you updating people's x-rays when they need to be updated? People are walking around in our practices every single day with conditions that need to be re-x-rayed at some point, whether it's a advanced spondylolisthesis or a scoliosis or whatever it might be. We need to be on top of those things. Again, it goes back to the cat's litmus test. Is it good for the patient to update it? Absolutely. That's being a good diagnostician. Is it good for the practice? Yeah, absolutely. From a couple of reasons. Medical, legal, because it protects you by doing that, but it also brings revenue into your practice.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much potential revenue. If we just talk about that, there's so much unpotential revenue in your practices. Tap into it. And if you need help understanding how to do that, I'll be honest, one of our best resources is free, and it's on our website right now about how to tap into some of those revenue points and do good things for the patients at the same time. So go check it out on our website at catsconsultants.com. But if you want to talk about some of these kind of things, if you're needing help getting over that hump and tapping into that potential in your practice, this is what we do. This is one of the things we help doctors with. So give us a call, send us an email. Let's chat about your practice and how we might be able to help.
Fantastic. I love this topic because I think it helps you sometimes take the pressure off of, oh, I need new patients. So guess what? You may not need as many new patients as you think. And I know sometimes that's thrust. New patients and PVA have been the buzzwords in chiropractic.
So nails on a chalkboard.
And I try to work to get away from that. My whole practice model is not involved in new patients and PVA. What I like to do is be profitable. And so if that's what you want to do and have fun in practice and enjoy helping more patients achieve their potential, because that's really what we're talking about, is finding hidden gems in your practice and helping your patients achieve their potential. If they win, you win.
And these kind of things that we're talking about also make you the go-to doctor in your community. So again, it's a win.
Win.
All right, everybody. We appreciate you tuning into the KC CHIROpulse Podcast. It's because of you guys out there that our podcast is growing like crazy. So remember, subscribe, share this with your colleagues, and we appreciate you tuning in every single week to check us out. All right. From all of us here at Cats Consultants, we'll see you next time.
See ya.